This is a cynical but convenient tactic that Kremlin is using, trying to connect the attack to Ukraine. Be clear, Ukraine was not involved in this at all. It's not, first of all, Ukraine has not committed terrorism or war crimes in the war against Russia. Russia has committed war crimes on a daily basis, right? It's part of Russian strategy in Ukraine is war crimes are integrated into the strategy. So it's not in Ukraine's interest to do this either, right? I mean, Ukraine has other ways of striking Russia, and it has been striking Russia with sea drones and air drones, but it's been striking legitimate military or economic targets, not a concert venue and killing hundreds or wounding hundreds of civilians, which if Ukraine were to do that, would only mobilize the Russian population and increase support for Putin and for the war. So it's not in Ukraine's interest to do it. All the indications are clear that it was ISIS-K. Not only U.S., but other intelligence services have concluded that. But it's convenient for the Kremlin because, one, it helps promote this narrative that Putin has been trying to sort of advance for years now, and that is the West is at war against Russia. And if Ukraine in partnership with the West can be blamed for this attack, then it makes the point that, hey, look, we've told you all along, the West and Ukraine are attacking us. They're trying to undermine us. They're trying to undermine our security and stability. And the idea, I think, is to garner or increase the level of popular support for the war against Ukraine. And it justifies an expansion of the war. It could justify a further mobilization. And the other thing it does is it's an attempt to obscure the failure of the Russian intelligence services and security services to prevent this, right? If it's Ukraine and the West attacking you, well, that's harder to prevent than ISIS-K. So by blaming the West through Ukraine, it makes it a little more excusable that the Russian intelligence services failed to prevent the attack.
I know for sure is that in America and among serious terrorism scholars and experts, that Putin's efforts to attribute the attack to Ukraine is seen as a joke. It's seen as laughable and meritless. And I think the reason why is because Islamic State, when it commits an attack and it claims credit for an attack, goes through a very particular process. It has very specific media by which it claims responsibility for the attack. And Islamic State went through that process for this attack as well, and was able to provide additional information, including both photos and videos. And the Americans and the Europeans have reinforced this collective interpretation that Islamic State was behind the attack. So where I'm coming from, it's not a plausible claim, but that doesn't mean that Putin will not try to exploit this attack, maybe somehow escalate rhetoric and violence against Ukraine, and trying to connect it to the attack in Moscow. It's just not convincing